All right, I'm back with another kind of crazy one. For this one, I'm going to make a dandelion, a fluffed out one, using ginormous stitches. So I've got my fabric in a hoop, which is actually really important for this one. Unless you had batting, you could get away with it. Maybe it just needs some stability, and you'll see why in a second. And then I've also got some tearaway stabilizer underneath, which may be tricky to remove. I may wish I had done water soluble, but anyway, I'll take a couple stitches to start. I should have pulled up my thread, I guess. And then I'm going to lift up the foot. I'm using the knee lift, which is really, really handy for this, and just take a ginormous stitch. And then I do a couple more down in that spot. I might even do a little like V thing here. And then foot up again, back to the center, a couple stitches, and make sure it goes all the way up. The foot goes all the way up, because that is what disengages the tension, and you don't want tension on the thread while you're pulling. So I drew myself a little bit of a guide, but I'm going to do more than that, of course, just to kind of get me started. And then, I'll just do a whole bunch of them, different lengths. I need to make sure it goes all the way up, or it won't be happy, the knee lift. And you can do it with your hand lift too. It doesn't have to be the knee one. That's just kind of handy, because then I don't need to use my hand, right? So, get my thread out of here. Do a few more, and then I'll finish it off camera. But you can get the idea. It's kind of fun for a goofy flower like this, or like the stamen and pistil in the middle of a flower maybe, or grass. I could picture this with grass, and this would be something that you would not do on a quilt that was going to be used or whatever, because obviously these can catch on things, but for something that goes on the wall, it has a very different look than, if those were all tiny stitches. So it kind of sits on top more, and it's a more straight line. So kind of a cool technique. So I'll finish this and then show you what it looks like. All right, I did a whole bunch more stitching. I think it's pretty good here. A bit more. Another thing I wanted to mention, a couple things. As it got more and more dense in the middle, then I started going not quite back to the middle. So, and that's okay. And it's okay to kind of like drive to a new spot if you need to also. And make sure the foot goes not only all the way up, but also all the way down, because then that re-engages the tension, and you definitely want that when you're doing the stitches, or you'll get a snarly mess on the bottom. So I'll do a couple anchoring stitches to finish that off. Make sure I don't cut any of my fluff. Try and get this in the light, but anyway, kind of fun. Very tedious, but a lot of these are tedious. They're just, something you would use on a special project, or if you don't mind spending time on something like that. I'm usually kind of impatient, but I like to try these things. So next I'm going to show you something that's a kind of similar, but another different twist. All right, my goal here, I drew a little rose. It's almost wild rose season here in Fairbanks. And then I already did one color, but I'm going to do 3 shades of pink going out with big stitches. So not as big as those, but still big, kind of to imitate hand embroidery, where you might fill in and do some shading with some bigger stitches. So, whoops, pull up my thread. Thread doesn't want to pull up. All right. So, try to get my hands out of the way here. Do a couple more stitches and then cut my thread too, because that's always annoying. All right, so I have it on as slow as it'll go, the machine, because you have to move pretty fast, although you can do 2 stitches in each spot, and that's actually quite a bit easier. But I want to vary the length of these, and I want to go back into the dark pink, and then I want to make some longer and some shorter, and I can always go back and add more. And eventually you get kind of a rhythm going. It feels very awkward at first, but some people do really amazing things with this technique. I did have to lower my top tension quite a bit also to get it to not pull the bobbin thread up. So it'd be a good time to have matching bobbin thread, which I don't. And don't worry about making it too dense the first time around, because you can always go back, and it probably doesn't need to be as dense as you think. You can even do a couple in one direction. It doesn't, you know, if you accidentally stitch in the middle, that's not a big deal at all. And if it does two jumps in one instead of one big long one. Whoop. But you have to move your project pretty quickly, and even if this is on really slow, in order to get it far enough away by the time the needle goes down again. It's hard for me to make my brain make the machine go slow enough, but it really needs to go slow. So I will go finish that. Another long, tedious one where you don't really need to watch me do the whole thing probably, but you can get the idea already. And I'll finish that and add another color, and maybe do the leaves also and show you what that looks like. And then I'm going to do yet another technique for the center. All right, this last one might be the most tedious one of all. We'll find out. So I am going to make some kind of a fuzzy fringy middle for this rose. So, well, the way to do that is just, I've got yellow thread, take a couple stitches, and then lift up my foot, push it out of the way, foot back down, a couple stitches, lift it up, move over just slightly. You can see this might take a while. So I'm definitely taking 2 stitches in each spot to help anchor this. Slide out my little, this is one of those purple things. Any stylus or bamboo skewer will probably do if it's not too catchy. And I kind of get where it seems like a row. I'll go back across the other way. The person that I saw doing this was actually just recently. I hadn't seen this one until just a few weeks ago. She was, you know, trying to replicate hand embroidery again. That's a technique. So after I get this filled in, then I'm going to trim these and make kind of a fringe. So obviously that's going to take me a little while, so I will keep going and then show you what it looks like. This machine makes a lot of noise when I put the foot up and down. I think the clicking is the knee lift, but if you aren't in the habit of using a knee lift and you have the option, it's the greatest thing ever. It just frees up one of your hands. So I will jump ahead to the trimming part and show you what that looks like. All right, I'm just about done here, but I thought I would do the last couple stitches back on camera because I learned something. I learned that if I took, you know, 2 or 3 stitches but moved a little bit in between, then that kind of helped fill in the background also. So then I didn't need quite as much. So let me do just a couple more here. That one was longer than necessary. But if I, you know, if I just drive around a little bit, then I might have to go back to that spot, or I might have to go over my row a couple more times. I don't know, but they can be spaced farther apart. So that helps fill in the background. So here we go. Here's the moment of truth. We'll see. Oh, nope. I'm going to go grab a different scissors. So I'll be right back. All right. Now this is going to be tricky to do so that you can see it. So I think I'll just start a little bit at a time. You know, I don't have to trim it all the way down. Also, these Karen K. Buckley scissors are the best. I tried this on a sample with different scissors and it wasn't grabbing them very well. Yeah, I don't know if I can do this on camera very well because I need to be in a different position. So anyway, I'll finish that, but you're getting the idea. And I finished the flower. Oh, I see a thread popping up, so that might happen with those big stitches. After all of this, I would probably put, you know, something fusible on the back to help anchor everybody. And another thing I wanted to mention, that the person I saw this from, her name's Millie. I'll link her Instagram account, but that's all I know about her. She did this technique with bumblebees, so it was like black and white, but she left the fringe kind of long and it kind of like laid down. So in a way that was a little easier. It didn't need to be quite as solid as I might want for this, you know, center of a flower. So that was super cool. So if you go to her page, you can probably find one of those. It wasn't too long ago. And I think that's pretty much it for this week. I was going to do one more, but it uses a product that is apparently not available anymore. So then I decided there's no point in that. It's something called Texture Magic. And it's fabric. It's a polyester-y kind of fabric that you would put under your main fabric and then do some free motion or whatever stitching, and then it shrinks. You shrink it and it just adds a ton of texture to your fabric. It shrinks down like by 30% or something. And so it was super cool. I don't know why it went out of vogue. It had a short life, I think, about 10 or 15 years ago. So I was going to show you that, but I couldn't even really find any online. I didn't search super hard, but I figured if it's that hard to find, it must not really be a thing anymore. So that was a bummer. So that's it for this week, and I think probably 2 more weeks, and then that will be it. So again, if you have any that I haven't covered and you're not sure if I'm going to, then let me know, because I have definitely, you know, this is one I just learned within the last month or two. So all right, we'll see you next week.